Dave Ramsey just went on one of his most unhinged rants ever. He touches on a few topics like, you're a thief, lacking integrity if you work multiple jobs at home. He attempts to roast Reddit's anti-work subreddit without having really any idea what it is. And he uses Israel and Palestine in a very poor attempt to illustrate socialism, communism, and capitalism. Hit that like button because you're in for a ride.
Hi, Zach. How are you?
So I'm a Catholic. I've recently had a few conversations with other Catholics on the topic of work. Some of them have an almost socialist perspective on it. They think workers today in the Western world are facing poor working conditions. They argue for a 4-day work week, and they say their employers don't care about them.
4-day work week. Where's the socialism in that? Work 4 10-hour days. Their employers don't care about them. Most employers don't care about you. They care about their profit. Where's the socialism? I don't see it, Zach. So then Dave makes this weird comparison about him being a parent teaching his kids to work.
As a dad, I have a responsibility to nurture, serve, and take care of my children. Taking care of them also includes requiring that they brush their teeth, that they say yes sir and no sir, that they say thank you. If you were to ask them, when I was requiring them to clean up their room and they were 4, they could say, well, my dad has unfair working conditions.
Your children aren't going to say, Dad, these are unfair working conditions, because children don't say that. Adults do. Stop comparing adult employees to your children.
They would have learned nothing, and they would have gained no dignity.
There is a difference between teaching your children about responsibility and doing things they don't like, and adult workers bringing up valid points about their employment that don't make sense. Trying to generalize and compare every worker that is concerned about their job to a kid complaining about cleaning their room is a good indication as to how you think about your workforce, Dave.
As an employer, it's different than parenting, but there are some parallels.
Workers are not your children, and you are not their dad. The relationship is not even similar.
But serving my team also sometimes includes allowing them to work somewhere else because they suck at their job. We set them free in Jesus' name.
What do you mean, allow? Are you in charge of that, Dave? Are they not allowed to do that without your approval? What do you mean, free them? Aren't they already free?
What are unfair working conditions? That mean old Ramsey people fired me. Well, you sucked. And guess what? You went on to become the best possible version of yourself, and we were loving you well when we fired you. We actually cared about you when we were firing you.
Is that also how you felt when you found out about the lady who got pregnant out of wedlock that you fired? Were you loving her well when you fired her then? And get this, Ramsey's argument isn't that he fired her for being pregnant, he fired her for the sex that preceded it. The pregnancy was just how they found out about the sex. Can you imagine being the judge in that courtroom? This isn't a non-profit company. This isn't a religious institution. This is a private for-profit company like McDonald's or Best Buy or Amazon. Can you imagine if McDonald's or Amazon started implementing some of this stuff? Sure. No one is forcing you to work at these places or sign these documents, but it just makes me laugh.
But we also actually require that while you're here at work, that you work. And I don't really want to hear about your whining and your social activism. I'll fire your little butt for that.
I don't want to hear about your whining as you currently whine, Dave. Also, there are certain types of social activism that you can't fire people for. Maybe you should look those up.
We're not going to unionize it, Ramsey. I can just promise you that. It's not going to happen. I'll just shut the dadgum place down.
Spoken like a true millionaire. I will shut the whole company down before I negotiate with my employees.
You work, you get paid. You do the work, you get loved. We love each other. We're all working together to pull off the same thing. I'm supposed to love them well, and they're supposed to love us back and do their work.
This has nothing to do with love. This is a job. They are employees. They meet your expectations with the work that they do for you, and you pay them. That's it. No love involved there.
I don't know why a bunch of adults can't do this. I don't know why we have to juxtaposition employers against employees.
Well, it's very simple, Dave. Employers want the most amount of profit possible and the least amount of overhead. And employees want the most pay and the least amount of labor. They have opposing interests from the get-go. Dave then proceeds to start a straw man logical fallacy. And if you don't know what that is, that means you broaden or narrow the scope or premise of the argument to refute a weaker version of the argument.
This idea that all employers are evil and should be punished, because for some of these little snowflakes, work at all is unfair.
It's not fair that we have to work to live, Dave.
It's unfair that you require me to work while I'm at work.
Nobody said either of those things, Dave. This is a straw man argument.
And I want to work from home, where I don't really work.
You know what? This signals to me that there is zero trust in your employees to get the work done, and you are the type of boss that expects every person to work every minute of every day until it's 5 p.m., and if you think people are doing that in an office, you're mistaken. Then he moves on to saying that being overemployed and having multiple jobs is stealing and you lack integrity.
But I'm at home, and I still collect a check. Oh, by the way, I've got 3 of those work-at-home jobs now, which means I'm now stealing officially from that employer, which is a new trend in work at home, by the way. Go ahead and get 3 full-time jobs while you work at home. Get paid by all 3 of them for working full-time, and you obviously aren't.
While you sit on your moral high horse.
That's called stealing, okay? That's a lack of integrity, to say the least. You're a thief.
That's stealing and a lack of integrity, and you're a thief. Okay, so this is a blanket statement meant to condemn overlapping jobs, or these days now known as being overemployed. Is it stealing because you don't get their full attention? Or is it stealing because they're doing something else while they're at your job or whatever you consider their priority? Because if it's the second one, then again, I'd say take a look around your office, and if anyone that isn't working at that moment, well, they would be considered stealing, right? Now, some full-time jobs you probably can't overlap because of how you're paid. If you're getting paid to work 1 hour at one company and then 1 hour at another company, then you usually... well, you can't work the same hour for each company. Now, if you're being paid salary, it's a different story. This comes directly from the U.S. Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division. If we come down here, we can see the salary basis requirements section. Here's where it defines what a salary is. Being paid on a salary basis means an employee regularly receives a predetermined amount of compensation each pay period on a weekly or less frequent basis. The predetermined amount cannot be reduced because of variations in the quality or quantity of the employee's work. Subject to exceptions listed below, an exempt employee must receive the full salary for any week in which the employee performs any work, regardless of the number of days or hours worked. So how is this stealing, Dave? You're not getting paid by hours. A lot of companies say they want a full-time 40 hours. This is their expectation of hours they want you to work. But that's, again, not how you're being paid. In my view, if someone gets the amount of work done that meets your expectations and you're happy with the product, that's all that matters. Are the employees available? Are they reliable? Are they putting out quality work? Why does it matter if you do that for multiple companies, assuming you aren't breaking any contracts you signed, any non-competes, or any NDAs? Sometimes you have a salary job where you can get your week's worth of work done in just a couple of days of that week. This is the part where people go, if you could get a week's worth of work done in a few days, then it wasn't a week's worth of work. You should go to your manager and find more work. Do you really think workers will run back and say, I've completed my work, boss, give me more? Why would they do that? What do they get for working any harder? They just get more work. What's the incentive? A chance at a $50 gift card? A trophy? What are the chances they're going to be rewarded for asking for more work the same way they would if they were to just go get another job and do work for another company? Because then they're going to get another paycheck. In scenario 1, they get more work and get the same pay. In scenario 2, where they work for multiple companies, they get more work and they get more pay and leverage, meaning if one job fails, you have another. And again, if the employer is already satisfied with the results of your work and had no idea that you went and got a second job, what's the problem as long as you're not breaking any contracts? Is it loyalty? Is that the issue? Because if you want that, I can introduce you to my friend here. Hold on. His name is Oko, and he's probably the most loyal buddy you'll ever find. But he's not for sale, and he definitely wouldn't work for Dave Ramsey. I wouldn't allow it. Wouldn't allow my children to be around that kind of person. What about executives? Executives can invest and be managing partners in multiple companies they do and don't own, but employees can't work another job or they're a thief. Wouldn't that mean the CEO of the company you work at isn't giving their full attention if they're managing multiple companies? What about freelancers that have multiple clients that are paid on a project basis? Is it stealing if the freelancer spends more time on one project than the other, if in the end, both clients are still satisfied? Imagine being more productive than what your job requires, and then your employer calls you a thief. My God. Imagine being proud that you were able to handle a few jobs at once, and your boss says, hey, that's a lack of integrity. If no productivity is lost, then the employer simply overpaid, and that is the employer's problem, not the worker's problem. The reaction that some people have to this concept is so self-damaging, it would be funny if it weren't so sad. You owe your employers nothing. Take everything you can from them before they do it to you. Now we move on to more definitions of business made up on the spot with Dave Ramsey.
So all of that to say, Zach, this idea that socialism or capitalism is either one, the answer, it's not. It's sanctified capitalism.
Sanctified. And then you can see on his face, he's like, wait, I have to say capitalism.
capitalism.
I actually looked up sanctified capitalism, and really the only references you'll find to this word is from Dave Ramsey.
Meaning that people are loving the other person well in the equation.
So is this the answer to Zach's question? Just love each other? That's it. Just love each other. Just do the work unto the Lord, stop complaining, and just love. What a rant. What a rant. But it continues, believe it or not.
I actually do love our team. And I actually have done unbelievable sacrifices for them. And we proved that during our downtime during COVID as an example, where we said the first people that aren't going to get paid if somebody doesn't get paid is leadership. It didn't result in that. We were able to keep profits up and everybody was able to get paid.
Yeah.
But that was how we lined it out. We said the leaders go first.
We've done unbelievable sacrifices, and we've proved it by saying if our business started to go downhill, the leaders would be the first one to forego pay or whatever. Now, it never came to that, but we said we would do it. Dave, how is that proof then? Because it never actually happened. It just seems like virtue signaling to me. We would have done it. We said we would do it. Okay, but you didn't do it, Dave. So I don't think that you can use this as an example of proof of sacrifice. And I'm not saying that you wouldn't have done it, but it's impossible to know because it never happened, Dave. So you can't use this example as proof.
Do your work as unto the Lord. Does that sound like do your work as unto the Lord?
I want to work 4 days a week, and I want to not have to work, and I want to bitch and complain about my employer.
Does that sound like doing your work as unto the Lord to me? Doesn't sound like it to me.
Dave's line of thinking is just don't complain, shut up, and do your work unto the Lord. What is that, Dave? Is that what you would say when someone has an issue with something? Is it bitching and complaining when someone has an issue? A legitimate issue? Just, no, be quiet and do your work unto the Lord. So this is the part where Dave tries to understand anti-work on Reddit and prepare for them to take everything out of context and make complete fools of themselves.
So George and I are talking at the break about that last caller, and he's telling me stuff that I didn't know because I'm an old dinosaur. Apparently, you said there is a whole work...
anti-work
the rise of the anti-work movement. The group of people that think it is unfair that they should have to work.
If you take a minute and look at anti-work, then I think you'd mostly see it's about people that are unhappy about unfair or illegal working conditions. Like, yeah, maybe it's a nice idea to not work, but I think most people on that subreddit that it's not literally what it is. The name itself sure is triggering, specifically to boomers, and it looks like it's working.
And they're frustrated with the nature of their employment. So therefore, because I hate my employer, I should just not have to work. Yes.
There's a movement of people that don't think they should have to work, that they should just be given stuff by society just because it's unfair, and all working conditions, therefore, are unfair. Correct?
Yeah.
No, that's not what the subreddit is about. Maybe originally, Dave, but not anymore. These days, it's about worker rights and knowing what your employer can and can't legally do to you, like writing you up or firing you for talking about your wage. That's illegal to do, but most people have no idea and keep quiet because they're afraid. You want to take the title of r/anti-work and twist it so that your very conservative audience will pay no mind to it and think it's just a bunch of lazy babies. Sure, there are some in there, but they're everywhere. Don't judge a book by its cover. You're making fools of yourselves. They sit here and mostly take anti-work for the literal meaning instead of taking 30 seconds to read it and see what it's mostly about. Then they start spouting off verses about how the Bible says you should work. The classic appeal to authority in an attempt to prove an argument about a subreddit taken out of context.
And there's, I mean, I just pulled up, there's about a litany of scripture that is very clear, even without the biblical context. You know, Ephesians, let the thief no longer steal, rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. Look at that.
Or Proverbs, whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys.
Dave then takes a moment to tell us one of his favorite quotes. And wouldn't you know it? Of course, it has to do with servants.
There's one that I always think of when I'm grilling. An unfaithful servant is like smoke to the eyes.
Oh.
You know, you get the smoke in your eyes and your eyes are watering. Yeah. And so when you have an employee that is an idiot, it's like the grilling and the smoke is in your face, you know?
An unfaithful servant. We aren't faithful servants, Dave. We are humans that are working for a wage. That is all. You guys know that there are probably other conservatives, Christians, and other religious people on anti-work that have been helped by the knowledge they found there, because the answer isn't always as easy as you'd think. It's definitely not do your work as unto the Lord and stop complaining, though.
You know, talking about the anti-work movement, Proverbs 14:23, in all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty.
Nope, it's still not over yet. Then he starts talking about communism and socialism because of anti-work, using Israel and Palestine as the examples to do so.
How's the not working thing working for you? You know, because you kind of do that like with communism or socialism. You can go around the world in history and look and go where there has been communism, where there's been socialism. You just look at them and go, like when you're driving through Israel, you go into the areas that are controlled by the Jewish community, prosperous, safe, clean. You go into the areas controlled by the PLO, looks like a trailer park. It's awful. And you just kind of want to look at them and go, guys, how's that working for you? You know, how's that working for you? What's the fruit of your ideas? When you put your best idea forward and you get poop back, how's that working for you?
Using Israel and Palestine as the example to show how communism and socialism doesn't work is a vast oversimplification of that region. There are many issues. It's not as easy as just get a job and go to work, Dave. There are years of politics, history, and religion that have influenced that area. I'm sure if it was as easy as just go get a job, then they would, Dave. Not every person that lives in these regions chose this lifestyle. Overall, in my opinion, it's pretty disrespectful, and I think a better comparison could have been easily used. So now, good old George here says, you can choose where you work.
And to your point, you talked about parents and how, you make your kids clean their room, and it's forced labor, whatever it is. The thing about work
Send them to the salt mines.
You can't choose your parents, but you can choose your employer. So imagine that. You can just choose to find a place that doesn't suck.
First of all, not everyone wants to just quit their job at the drop of a hat because they have questions or complaints about their employer. Second of all, you and I both know it's not as simple as that. You have bills, perhaps a family to support, insurance to keep because it's tied to your job, and maybe you die without the medicine you need because you can't afford it because it's tied to your job. These are smarmy, smart-ass comments made without taking a second to think, to have some perspective of what it's like for people who aren't millionaires. And also, The Ramsey Show has plenty of episodes where they basically get upset at people that quit their job during the Great Resignation because they were unhappy with it. Like, for example, don't you guys remember when Ken was judging the lady who quit her job because they made her come back to the office? She was unhappy and quit, so they judged her for that too. There's no winning with these people.
I don't think they pay enough. Okay, don't go to work there.
If you think you're worth more,
I think they're a
go
toxic
apply.
work environment. That guy's a narcissist. Everybody's a narcissist now.
Half the show is just telling America that you have agency over your life. You have control. But the problem is people back themselves into a corner and decide they only have one option. It's to work for a toxic place or not work at all.
That's not true at all. Like you just said, if they get more than one job, then they're a thief. And you guilt them for that too. So what's the other option here? It's not just one option of work or don't work. Sometimes people want to work even more, but they can't because then they're a thief. And then they go on to say the classic, if you think you can do better, stop complaining and make your own business. First of all, that's not what everyone wants. Second, you're being a smartass because you know it's not as easy as that. Again, you can hear it in their tone. Everything they say is just so condescending to their audience. Why do these people still watch?
You think you could do better, go start you a business and run it the right way. We need more of that in America. Go for it.
Yeah, take that not working thing and go hire a bunch of people with it and see how that works out.
You guys are just embarrassing yourselves with the ignorance toward even hearing their message. I've never seen more of a yes man than this George guy. Like, look at how he adds on to Dave's joke here. And once George sees approval and Dave starts laughing, George gets validated by Daddy Dave. I almost feel bad for George. Almost.
Yeah, take that not working thing and go hire a bunch of people with it and see how that works out.
And pay them with the not money that you don't make. There we go. Great business model.
And those hungry people that need to be fed, you're not going to be feeding them because you ain't any money. Your generosity level, because you're a broke person. By the way, all communists are broke people because there's nothing more capitalistic than a non-broke communist.
They just go on and on and on with their dumb stabs at the anti-work subreddit by literally interpreting it as people who just don't want to work and get stuff for free, which the majority of that subreddit is not. Then George takes a second to finally change the topic because I think he realizes that this has gone on a little long. So they start talking about, oh, you should read this book, and they, classic shilling on the show.
We all need to read Rabbi Lappin's book.
Yeah, Thou Shalt Prosper.
Some
will walk
great
you through this,
gems in there.
To sit on your butt and scream about everyone else and gripe about everyone else, there is nothing Christian about that at all. I think that's called gossip. So, anyway, it's a very interesting discussion.
It's a fun life mission, I guess, to be angry at work.
You think it's over, but it's not, because then apparently, Dave has a PhD in psychology because he steps in to tell you about how humans work and stay motivated.
The human psyche is built to have traction. There is no psychological benefit to doing something that has no traction. Work involves traction.
Have you ever had a dead-end job, Dave? Where's the traction at these jobs?
When you're doing something, you need to feel the sense of accomplishment and traction, incremental progress along the way. It's a psychological need that the human brain has. And to actually do nothing is psychologically suicide, because your brain is going to rot inside your head. And that's why your loving Heavenly Father gives you instructions to work.
This entire rant is just an attempt, at least what it looks like in my opinion, to just shame workers who don't work any jobs, but who also work more than one job. I don't know. Isn't part of your advice, Dave, to get more than one job? Does that mean they can only have more than one job as long as they aren't overlapping their current job? Is that the caveat there? Who cares if you're getting all the work done, Dave? These people are not thieves. You're out of touch. Not a lack of integrity. These CEOs did the exact same thing when they were hustling their way up to make their own company. But when they get to the top, suddenly the people that work for them can't do it. They're not allowed to. You know, your CEO, when he was hustling his way up to make his own company, he was working at 2-3 different jobs, doing whatever he had to do to make it. And then he gets to the top, and now you're a thief. You can't do that. Only I can manage multiple companies and work for different people because I'm the boss, but you're an employee, so you can't do that. Like, do you see? This is just, it's shameful, Dave. It's really shameful. It's really unhinged, to be completely honest. And you should think about what you're saying next time. Perhaps even read the anti-work subreddit and realize that you just made a complete fool of yourself. And for those of you out there who go, well, maybe they should have picked a different name. No. I mean, clearly, it's triggering you. Just take 2 seconds and read it. If the name is too triggering for you, then, I mean, maybe you're not adult enough to get a job. Let's just be honest. If you look at Dave's more recent videos and you look at the like ratio, you can kind of see that the like ratio is trending down based on views. It's more and more and more of a like, okay, Dave, you're getting a little off topic here, a little ranty, you're not being relatable, and you can just see it. Just go look in the last few videos that he's posted over like the past month or so. It's just such unrealistic advice. It really is. If you want realistic advice, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel, because I'm calling out corporate all the time. I'm calling out people who want to manipulate employees, throw propaganda out there for the rat race to employees, you know, that feel-good nonsense to get you to work 80 hours a week. I'm calling it all out, so make sure to follow the channel, subscribe, etc. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think about Dave. I'm sure I'll get some flack. I normally do. But that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.